Chinese medicine, Indian medicine was functional medicine before there was functional medicine, right? Mm-hmm. How does bringing functional medicine serve as that gap between traditional medicine and some of these more ancient traditions? Because like you said, functional medicine is basically looking at things like energy, mitochondrial health, inflammation, gut health.
There was a whole era, and we could get into the history of allopathy, where it's like, surgery, steroids, and antibiotics made this one form of medicine do really well. We got our guys on the battlefield faster than the enemy. Wow, we're winning, right? And then we lost sight of the whole.
Right.
And in doing so, we poo-pooed anything that wasn't in this model. Mm-hmm. And now it's all kind of coming back. And look, I am the first to admit there's a lot of BS. It's a very careful game of separating the baby from the bathwater, but finding this body of work that's evidence-based, that does no harm, that can help people in a more meaningful way. And I think that's where medicine is going.
I totally agree with you. And we're at that moment right now, I think, in history where the pendulum is swinging back into being more accepting of traditional medicine and looking at the body as a systems-based approach. Pedram, it's been a long time coming for you to be on this podcast.
Happy to finally be here. This is exciting for me.
Thank you. It's exciting for me as well. The urban monk.
I hear he's in the house.
The urban monk is in the house.
Yeah.
So, just starting off with that, Pedram, you're such an interesting guy, and you've had an amazing story. And I'd love for you to just maybe start off with why do we refer to you as the urban monk?
Great question.
Yeah.
I'll go bird's eye view for a little bit of elevation, come down. Immigrant family, get over here. You got to be a doctor. UCLA, trying to be a doctor. I'm like, man, these guys look miserable.
I empathize with that story.
Yeah, right? It was just, I was interning with a guy, and your angels come in different forms, right? He was just not a nice person. And I was like, man, do I want to be living this guy's life? I asked God for a clue, and a book on Taoism emerges in my life. Weird story, but I'm like, what is this? I grew up watching Star Wars, but what is this Jedi stuff?
Yeah.
And so I read it, and I go find a Taoist Kung Fu master the next week. I was just like, oh my God, this is cool.
That's incredible.
So I go from, biology, UCLA, to then suddenly being 30 hours a week at a Kung Fu studio studying Bagua, Xingyi, Tai Chi, stuff that I was like, what is this stuff? And I was just all in because that's what I do. Why? Because I don't want to believe something, I want to experience something.
Yeah.
And within a week of doing some of these practices, I was like, what is this feeling?
Yeah.
And you cannot deny the experience of something. And so I just kept digging and digging, being a scientist. Why is this working? What does this feel like?
Sure.
And went down the path, became a monk of the lineage, became a priest of the lineage, became an abbot of the lineage, and just kept going. Changed my trajectory from Western medicine to Oriental medicine, got a doctorate in Oriental medicine, and came back I was in the Himalayas actually for 6 months, and I came back and realized that when you study the things that monks study, you are part of an ascetic lineage. The ascetics renounce the world. You leave, you go up the mountain, you don't deal with money, you don't deal with family, you don't deal with bills. And so as a student of the ascetic lineages, I was sitting actually in Rishikesh, India, because I studied a lot of different traditions. And I'm like, complaining to this Baba about, I don't know if I'm in place here. He's like, no, you don't belong here. You speak good English. You're an educated man. You've learned what you need to learn here. Go back to the world, be a householder. And I knew he was right, but I didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Come back, be a normal guy. And the interface between being able to do yoga and meditate for 3 hours a day and pray for world peace and count your rosary and do all the things that you do as an ascetic with a regular guy life doesn't work. And so my work became understanding how to find peace as a householder for a guy who's got bills, a guy who's got kids, a guy who's late for soccer, and a guy who's got payroll to come up with, right?
Right.
And that became the interface, which is saying, look, a lot of the people in these spiritual communities are following the wrong rules for people who live in the normal world.
Right. That makes total sense, actually, because I've always wondered, this lifestyle that you see these monks living in the mountains with, it seems like they have a lot of time to just focus on their craft, right? And taking care of themselves. where do you find the time or even the mental space to do that, living in this urban life that we live? And you've kind of figured out how to interface those two. I'm so curious about Chinese medicine and some of the kind of the core tenets of it. I've learned a little bit about it. I know a lot about Ayurveda from my dad, who was an Ayurvedic practitioner. But I would love to kind of hear some of the core tenets of what you learned when you were getting yourself educated in Chinese medicine as a monk and then moving up the ladder. What are some of the core things that my audience can kind of learn through you that you've found?
So I came to Chinese medicine by way of Taoism and Qigong and yoga, and then it set matched to what I was learning. And then I was studying Western medicine, then I came to Chinese medicine. And then it was functional medicine before functional medicine. Yeah. And Jeff Bland just told me a story at lunch the other day about this, right? Where it was, he went to China and he started presenting on functional medicine, and this guy got up and for 10 minutes was like, finally, a guy from the West that understands what we do here, because systems work together. It's an integrated whole. And so for Chinese medicine, and like every system has schools of thought, is the earth school of thought is everything runs through the gut. And if you heal the earth element, then all of the other elements run through it. And so it just made sense.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have balance. If your detox pathways aren't working and your digestion isn't working, we look at it in a very compartmentalized way.
You do.
In Western medicine. Right. And you have all of the specialists, and everyone becomes hyper specialized. And it's like, well, I can't talk to you about your heart. You got to go talk to that guy. Yeah. Well, no, I'm an interventional cardiologist. You got to go next door. And it just gets to the point where you don't even know who to talk to anymore. Yeah. And not to poo-poo the specialists because they are brilliant at what they do, you lose the big picture in this conversation, right? And so in Chinese medicine, you have this systems thinking of like, well, okay, you're doing everything right. You are working out, you're eating better, you are getting your sleep down, but you're going through a divorce. But that doesn't matter. Let's just, and so you're like, well, hold on a second. Let's talk about your stress levels and what we have to do to optimize your stress levels. Like you can't keep that off the table.
Right.
And so Chinese medicine is about the flow of health through the different systems of your body, and this currency of health that needs to, and I like to consider like economically, right? Like energy economics. Do you have enough energy to spend on your basic operations? And then do you have enough for your brain to thrive and come up with better ideas other than just trying to get through your day? And then do you have enough to help that guy across the street? Then and so that's all function of energy and the currency of life.
Right.
And how efficient are your mitochondria? How efficient are your cells? How efficient is your system in being able to generate that glow and extend beyond this life form trying to survive? And a lot of that has to do with coming out of survival, dealing with safety signals, and dealing with your body's ability to thrive as a biological organism, right? And there's a lot of ifs there in the toxic world where food is not what it used to be. And so, we got a lot of work to do.
Right.
But the general operating system of Chinese medicine, with my scientific background and all the weird stuff that I did, became a great framework to say, look, let's look at the big picture. And, if we run out of where I can help you, I know a guy. I mean, I know all the specialists, right? But you need someone in your corner that can help you see the big picture, because you're going to go walking around looking for a particular tree, and this is a forest.
And man, that's exactly, you said it so eloquently. Like, that's exactly what I'm trying to do here with my practice, is to serve as an interface between some of these integrative or traditional modalities and Western medicine. There's this big middle space that you can call it functional medicine. Like you said, Chinese medicine, Indian medicine was functional medicine before there was functional medicine, right? And how does bringing functional medicine serve as that gap between traditional medicine and some of these more ancient traditions? Because like you said, functional medicine is basically looking at things like energy, mitochondrial health, inflammation, gut health. All of that is what we learn in functional medicine. But that's what we were talking about for generations prior in Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine.
It really is. And there was a whole era, and we could get into the history of allopathy, where it's like, surgery, steroids, and antibiotics made this one form of medicine do really well. We got our guys on the battlefield faster than the enemy. Wow, we're winning, right? And then we lost sight of the whole.
Right.
And in doing so, we poo-pooed anything that wasn't in this model. And now it's all kind of coming back. And look, I am the first to admit there's a lot of BS. There's a lot of people that just make claims. There's a lot of people that have, in my assessment, they don't have the right to give people health advice because they don't know what they're talking about. And so it's a very careful game of separating the baby from the bathwater, but finding this body of work that's evidence-based, that does no harm, that can help people in a more meaningful way. And I think that's where medicine is going.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And we're at that moment right now, I think, in history where the pendulum is swinging back into being more accepting of traditional medicine and looking at the body as a systems-based approach versus, like you said, the compartmentalized, siloed approach of traditional medicine right now. And it's really exciting to be in this time, I think. I think people are sick and tired of being sick and tired, as our friend Mark Hyman says. Traditional medicine has not reversed the trend of chronic disease because it's not looking at what is the root cause of what's happening, right?
100%. And I can, when I kind of left traditional practice, I had multiple clinics and was kind of, I was in the trenches trying to help people. It was the MASH unit as far as I'm concerned. And then I kind of tried to swim upstream and go to corporate wellness to be like, hey guys, let me intervene here. Let me stop this before you get shot in the war, right?
Yes.
Let's negotiate a peace. And so I got to really get a view of the payer models and the unit economics and all the stuff around healthcare. And I can tell you that in Washington, up to maybe this year, I don't know what's going to change, but it has not been a healthcare debate. It's been a healthcare finance debate.
Absolutely.
Who pays for this gargantuous problem? Yeah. But even the wellness dudes, right, of which I am one, the business model around, selling supplements and all this is, oh, no, you don't need Xanax, you need St. John's wort. And it's still a transactional, lower tier deal than solving the actual root cause of the problem. Right. And I think a lot of the wellness people, because they got to eat and they got families to feed, are like, well, how do I make a living at this? And so I think there's another iteration of this that has a lot to do with solving problems, saving in costs, and benefiting society, and there is a dollar amount that can be attributed to that. And I think that's going to be the next generation of how this iterates into a functional model for society, right? Right now, rich guys can pay for it. Yeah. Right? It's tough.
Absolutely. And I think, the whole perception around the healthcare system and the massive expense that it costs us, right? Is like, what is 25% of our GDP is now our healthcare expense, which is just ridiculous. Every dollar you earn, 25 cents of that goes to feeding this healthcare system that we have. Pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, insurance companies, et cetera. I think that the more we try to turn that around, it's going to take forever. My philosophy is we unburden that system by using functional medicine, traditional medicine, and get people healthy from a root cause. And then you unburden that system and the dollars go away because people just don't need it anymore. Like you're doing, you're focusing your energy there, right?
Amen. I think Mother Teresa said it best. The people trying to get her to go to some anti-war rally. And she said, I won't go to that. But when you have a pro-peace rally, invite me.
There you go. That's a great analogy right there.
Right? Like just create the model and show the value, let it glow, right? And that's how functional medicine, and Jeff Bland's been at this since the 70s, right? Is it started by people helping people, and it starts to spread because goodness people talk about. Yeah. Hey, you've been going to this doctor for 35 years and you're overweight and your diabetes is there and like nothing's working. You're just stemming the tide versus, wow, look what happened to John.
Yeah.
Dude, he looks healthy. What's he doing? Yeah. Right? Exactly. I'm looking over there, right? Like that's what works.
Absolutely. Yeah, his book Disease Delusion is one of my, my core reads for anybody. I think it's such a great summary of not just functional medicine, but also just the complete misconception of Western medicine being able to heal us. It's really just covering the symptoms of disease. And thank God Western medicine is there, right? I mean, if you get hit by a bus, like you said, because of surgery, antibiotics, and what was the third thing?
Steroids.
Steroids, right? Western medicine became a thing. And yes, it's extremely helpful. Thank God we have it. but it's definitely, obviously, not keeping people healthy, right?
Yeah, and it's limited its scope. It's like saying, you know what, we had martial law and the police took over and then they started governing things through martial law, but then the police are not equipped to run society. Right. And so it just expanded beyond its natural scope, and it's very good at what it's good at. But it is not good at chronic disease. It is not good at lifestyle. It is not good. We understand where its limitations are. It has taken on too big of a role for what it's good at.
Absolutely. Now that, we've kind of laid the framework of some of your expertise, we could talk forever, and you have so much expertise in so many areas, but I do know you have some particular thoughts and expertise around gut health, and specifically, the reason I even want to bring this up is this is a massive issue, and I would say 80% of my patients, 80% of the people I see have some level of gut health issue that is underappreciated and not addressed. Leaky gut being one of those. And I'd love to hear kind of how you talk to people about this. What is your, how do you bring this to the forefront of people's consciousness?
This all actually started with this guy not sleeping. So I've done a 10-part series on gut microbiome. I did another 8. I've been in the space around, I've been in all the labs, I've talked to all these people, so gut health. Yeah. I go to Portugal for a summer and go weapons free on pastas and gelatos and just, hey, we're in Europe, this stuff's better, right? Fine during the trip. Come back to, a leak in the house and some cortisol and some, kind of compression of the cells. And I'm not sleeping. And so here's a seasoned meditator who's lying in bed at 2 a.m. going, why are you not sleeping? Why are you not sleeping? And then my instinct from being a guy who grew up in the West is, how do I shut this crying baby up? Right? So take some melatonin, take some GABA. So what kind of remedial effort can I put to silence this noise? And then I'm like, monkey, no, you know better than that. What is your body telling you? And as I started kind of tracing what my body's telling me, I started nerding out. It's like, if you're up, you might as well be on PubMed. Yeah. So, right? And so I just started nerding out looking at this literature, a huge body of literature on endotoxemia and the mind-body effects and the downstream effects on not just anxiety, but sleep and your clock genes and all this stuff. And so I just started following these breadcrumbs, no pun intended, back to being, oh God, you compromised the permeability of your gut lining. Wow. Your zonulin. So I just basically started testing and looking at myself being like, oh yeah, this is gut permeability. And what happens when you have permeability in your gut from one good summer in Portugal is lipopolysaccharides from the gram-negative bacteria that can now proliferate in a gut that's having more carbs and things that you're not supposed to be eating, jump the castle wall, and now your immune system is saying enemies, right? And what does that do? It triggers something called neuroception. It triggers your safety signals to say, hey, something's wrong, dude. And here's the problem. I don't know about your body, but my body doesn't actually speak English. It speaks irritation. It speaks anxiety. It speaks insomnia. It speaks this kind of halo effect of like something's wrong. But because I'm too busy looking at a TikTok feed or watching the news or, worried about getting my kid to soccer, I've learned to not listen to that. And the drug companies say, oh, no, if you got that, take this. Yeah. Right? And so it all goes back.
Take some Ambien.
Take some Ambien. I mean, what's wrong with you? We have a solution for this. Just you can take it for the rest of your life. Cha-ching. Right? And so I was like, holy crap. And I just got deeper and deeper into gut permeability. And I could tell you one thing that we did, like early days, I'm the guy, arguably I did the definitive work on the microbiome. Sure. There's a 10-part series that, it's like this vast archive of the who's who, and I sat with them and I'm like, I know the microbiome.
In your documentary series.
In my documentary, yeah. And so
what's the name of that one, by the way?
Interconnected.
And so people should look that up because I've watched a few of those. And they're really good. You've talked to like the world's experts.
Yeah,
it's not microbiome.
Yeah. I'm very good at getting in the room with the smartest people and asking them, good questions, I guess. Right. And so I'm like, man, microbiome. So what did we all start doing 6 years ago when the microbiome came? We started testing the microbiome. Right. And you know better than any, when you test someone coming in off the street with just any sort of gut issues, you're like, wow, your microbiome is a dumpster fire, right? Because there's all these inflammatory issues, all sorts of issues. So as a good functional medicine doctor, what do? Say, oh, you know what? Why don't you go do an elimination provocation diet, come back in 30 to 60 days, then we'll retest, then we'll start doing the work. And it's like 6 months before you get these people any results. And so as a guy who likes results, it's painful. And so what did I start doing? I said, okay, well, what are the major issues here? We started looking at food sensitivity testing and gut permeability testing, saying, dude, did you know that you have a 4+ reaction to cherries? Oh my God, I love cherries. Says here you can't eat them. So then after a couple months of taking away the foods that they're having immunological issues with, and then fixing whether it's occludin or zonulin or candida or LPS, and just fixing a few things, then we go test the microbiome. Then we make micro adjustments. And you know better than any, my joints are better. My sleep is better. I'm in a better mood. The energy starts to come back because your body comes out of wartime economy. Right? If you're worried about building bombs, you're not making school books. Right? And it all happens at the gut permeability level of your body. And so here I am, a seasoned meditator, trying to like meditate off like a right? Like this alarm signal in the middle of the night. And it occurs to me that you got to go backwards and fix what your body is telling you. And then your body is at peace. And so all these people going to yoga and taking kava and doing all this stuff, it's still remedial if the root cause is something else. And so in this example, it was my gut.
Such a great story. And I think what the highlight that people should get from that is you had insomnia. In traditional medicine, never would they work you up with any type of gut health testing for insomnia. Absolutely.
No one's looking at that.
Exactly. No one's looking at that. And so just the interconnectedness of your gut to your brain and stress levels and inflammation, your immune system is what functional medicine is all about. And I think the ancient Chinese medicine practitioners and ancient Indian medicine practitioners also knew this because a lot of what they offered people were plants, herbs that would help fix their gut and help them repair their gut when people had symptoms of headaches, insomnia, et cetera.
So you would take the pulse and you'd say, okay, your spleen Qi deficient, you got a little dampness in your spleen yang and all this kind of stuff, and you'd put them on a formula that includes ginger and maybe some carminatives. And so now we go back and study these herbs and we're like, how the heck were they so spot on? How is ginger the primary thing that moves the motor, the motor cortex, what is it, the MMC of the small intestine for SIBO? Like it's unbelievable how well these align now that we understand the underlying mechanisms. And I'm not going to propose I understand how they got there, except thousands of years of trial and error.
Exactly.
But they are evidence-based. Because as a practicing physician, if I make a recommendation to you and you're suffering and you come back and say, I'm worse or I'm not better, that is a data point that I will have to micro adjust around immediately, or you're going to go see the next guy. And so for thousands of years, millions and millions of people, this is a refined system of evidence-based humanistic medicine. Right?
Absolutely.
But where's the published studies? Come on, right? You can do those later. We know this works.
And that's my point exactly, is that I'm really excited about the convergence of functional medicine, Western medicine, and ancient medicine. I think we're at the perfect moment in time to bring all of this together. And, now studies are being done. There's a lot of studies with ashwagandha, for example, with rhodiola. And we're seeing, the reason we don't have a lot of studies is not because these things don't work, is because there's no money in doing those studies, right? So that's the whole reason the studies aren't there. And you're familiar with the Flexner report? Basically, mandating that Western medicine trained doctors only use molecules that have been proven with randomized controlled large expensive studies, right? And so that's kind of where we're at, where we are. Shackles.
Yeah. This is a form of thought slavery that we are going to bind you to, and then the entire system looks at you in your white coat and says he must know what he's talking about. So it's being duped at the highest level through the education of Western medical doctors, and there are plenty that have shaken it off and are like, come on, man, look at this, right? And so we are in an upheaval
Right.
of a thought control system
Yeah.
that has been financed by the Rockefellers and big oil. There's a lot of story here. I don't need to get into that crap. There's a lot of dark history about how we've come to believe that this is the only way to think about health.
Yeah.
And if you look downstream, it's a great business because
well,
everyone's sick and everyone's on drugs and everyone's paying
$3 trillion
these guys.
business, right?
Yeah. Wake up and smell the trap, right?
Yeah.
And there's a piece to this that I went down, of course, because we started looking at NF-kappa B, which is a kind of high level genetic expression that the switches are the darling. Like if I come up with a pill that can modulate NF-kappa B and bring down inflammation on a systemic level, you'll be going on a trip on my private jet next week.
Yeah.
That is billions and billions of dollars of value to healthcare and society. They haven't been able to make a pill. But if you look at the studies, it is overwhelmingly apparent that mind-body practices and meditation and prayer flip this switch. Oh, I'm so sorry, there's no money in that, and I got to do something. So doctor, what can you give me? And that's where my heart just quivers.
Yeah.
Right? It's right there.
There's so many examples of that in medicine, though, that, we have something very simple that's right in front of our face that makes a huge difference, and we don't use it because we're waiting to develop a pharmaceutical drug that has the same effect, right? And it's just not going to happen, right? And it's not during our lifetime, at least, right?
Yeah.
And so let's dive in. That's where I wanted to go with you next, is NF-kappa B. Can you explain to my audience what that is, what is it a switch for, and why is it important?
So we all have our genetics and we have our epigenetics. Everyone's listened to all the podcasts about epigenetic this and epigenetic that. This is one of the major switches that will bring down cytokines. This is one of the major switches that will optimize the body to say, hey, baby, it's safe. You can grow. You can heal. So it's one of the switches that will drive us more towards parasympathetic dominance and the ability to be in a peacetime economy. So we're growing crops. Everything's good. We're not spending 25% of our money on healthcare or war and all this kind of stuff. Like, this is where the good stuff happens. And so modulating this, we know certain things will bring this. And so that has become one of the kind of the eras of, the areas of where we do our medicine is we look to how we can get this expression. So people will say, okay, you go in a cold sauna, you go in a hot thing, you do all these things that have hormetic stressors can optimize along that pathway. So then everyone goes and gets like a $12,000 ice bath because some dude said it's good for you. And I would argue that that is not the necessary master switch for certain people. I think certain genetic profiles will actually do worse in that.
I agree.
Right? And you got to be careful.
It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody, right? Like, I'm a brown guy. I don't like being cold, right? Like, I don't know if it's good for me, but like, that's not, right? And so when you talk about the free stuff, the easy stuff, and the like peace and love stuff, it starts to really skew into the realm of woo. And as soon as you look at the data of what actually helps with this particular genetic pathway, it's just that. But it's free, and it's what you do. It's how you decompress yourself out of time, and how you stop the world from having the walls cave in and take some moments to recenter yourself. It has such a powerful effect on your systemic inflammation, which then downstream from there, you could tell you better than I can, right? What that does. Systemic inflammation causes arterial issues, it causes blood sugar issues, it causes brain fog. I mean, just go downstream. Everything anyone's coming into a clinic for, this is above that.
Yes.
Oh, but let's not turn the dial over here. Let's come over here and ask what supplements you recommend, doctor. Right? And that's where my mind just kind of breaks on this, right? It's just like, yo, it's a trap.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I take ginseng, but I don't take ginseng. I take ginseng as a remedial way of allowing my body to have some of the botanicals that help with hormetic stressors and help with the dual directional whatever, right? And if I bang my knee, I might take an Advil. But that is not the solve to the problem. How do I not bang my knee next time? And so I think that this NF-kappa B pathway, I think that the ability for us to understand, and I'm writing a whole book on this, but how the anterior cingulate cortex and the default mode network are activated when we fold our attention backwards on our own perceptual arrays. There is this incredible body of research that's coming out now. I was a guy who came down from the monastery, hired a neuroscientist, built him a brain lab, and said, I don't know why this works.
Yep.
I don't know why this works, but I want you to study this and tell me what you're seeing. And so we started seeing really interesting stuff, right?
Amazing.
That'll be published soon. But a lot of it has to do with, okay, so here's like a yoga practice, okay? You are upside down balancing yourself. Your legs are burning. So now we have proprioception. We have pain reception. You are now focusing your breath internally to your lower abdomen, which is a part of interoception meets exteroception. You are feeling your heartbeat, which is interoception. And so we have multiple perceptual arrays that you are now being asked to hold in your attention simultaneously. And there's something very special that starts to happen in the brain as these multiple arrays come online in our awareness that then start to switch the lights on. And that's, that literally the next book's called Lights On because this is what's switching us on. And so is it actually the cold plunge or is it the forced pain and breath and awareness that brings you back into your body that makes you aware of all of these internal arrays that TikTok has taken away from you?
Yes.
Because your eyes are away from your own perceptual arrays and being pulled away by advertisers into a world that doesn't exist, right? And so there's a whole thing about the attention economy and how it's turning us into zombies that is becoming incredibly too true in what I'm digging up in this literature.
Incredible. So we started a conversation talking about gut health, and there's how it affected your sleep. So there's this gut-brain connection, but this connection is bilateral. Your brain actually controls a lot of what could be happening in the rest of your body. One of these control mechanisms is through NF-kappa B, which is through modifying inflammation, which is the root cause of every disease out there pretty much, right? And so what you're saying is that by being able to turn on our perceptual systems, that we're able to turn on the NF-kappa pathway and modify our inflammation?
Yes. It is a master switch of us being able to be back in the driver's seat and being able to access this internal neurology, this internal neurochemistry lab by allowing our perceptual arrays to come back online. We can modulate many things, including vagal tone.
Yes, definitely vagal tone.
Yeah,
right?
right?
Well, you've had a tremendous amount of work out there, and I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. And so thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to just keep having you on. I mean, there's so much to talk about.
This was so much fun. I love sitting with people who are switched on and just get it and want to talk about cool stuff. So this was really enjoyable for me. It wasn't algorithmic. It was hanging out with a smart guy having a good time.
No, I love it.
Really appreciate that.
We got to do this more often.
Happy to come visit Hollywood.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How do people find you? I'm going to come visit you in Laguna, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
How do people find you?
Theurbanmonk.com. Books,
Everything's
films.
there.
Yeah, everything's there. Everything's there.
Right. Thank you, man.
Thank you.